So Austin is already back to pre-pandemic employment levels. DFW is soon to get there, according to your report, and Houston right behind that. What's going on here in Texas with these cities?
Well, with so much migration moving here, either to get jobs or some other reason, we're just seeing a lot of migration into Texas. It is one of the healthiest economies that we see in the country. Lots of jobs being added.
When do you think we will see Dallas, Fort Worth get to that place where Austin has already made it, where we can say, you know, we're at pre-pandemic employment levels again? And then when does Houston get there?
But we think overall, Dallas will likely recapture all lost jobs by sometime probably mid next year. Although consider there are a lot of types of businesses. So food stores, tech companies, they're well ahead. They're already in expansion mode. Houston's likely to be a little bit more delayed, likely into 2023, mainly because of the oil and gas impact. And it's just going to take a little bit longer for those businesses to get back on track like they were before the pandemic.
Although we have seen this explosion in the petroleum industry here lately as prices have started to climb once again. So that may actually put a little bit of wind to their backs there in the Houston area, won't it?
Yeah, we expect, especially once business travel comes back and we start seeing more people go across the country for conferences and personal travel, other events. Yeah, Houston, we do believe long term, again, it has a lot of migration people moving there. It's just a little bit delayed compared to what we see in Austin and in Dallas.
The fact that Austin already made it back to pre-pandemic employment levels and Dallas is right behind it there. How extraordinary is that right now? Because, you know, we keep hearing about struggles in some parts of the country. How extraordinary is it to get back to that level at this point?
Well, I think once we look about a year from now and we see which markets have made it back and which have not, there's going to be a wide divide. As I travel around the country and speak with different people, what's happening here, when we talk about some of the strongest places, it's right here in DFW and in Austin as well. And this being such a strong region, we're going to continue to pull people in for migration, trying to get jobs. This is one of the hottest places in the country.
This is a job seekers market right now on steroids. It's a great labor market, even if you have a job right now. And we've seen so many people are considering leaving their jobs. What is the average employee's takeaway from your report, or the average job seekers takeaway from your report? It sounds like they're holding some good cards here.
Well, there are a record number of open jobs in the country right now. So employers are trying to connect with job candidates and they cannot do it fast enough. So what I would expect to see here in Dallas, you might start getting calls as an employer or an employee from businesses across the country because people are just starving for talent. And so from the coast, other places in maybe the Southeast or Southwest, we're now competing not just locally with other businesses trying to hire, but all over the country.
So let's talk about the flip side of that. Employers, boy, they're having a hard time. And so here in Texas, especially when you're talking about these markets that are doing so well and coming back to full employment once again, what is an employer's takeaway from this right now? It sounds like retention is a very big, thorny thing for a lot of employers right now.
Well, with so many jobs added here, it's good news, bad news. Good news that we have been able to add jobs. The bad news is we're running out of talent. And so for employers, it's become a really, really tight market. If we look back at August, almost 1 out of every 8 jobs added in the country was added here in DFW. And so it's great we're getting people back to work. But again, the challenge is going to be on the retention side. So focusing, making sure whether it's compensation or culture or whatever it is that keeps employees, businesses are going to have to really focus on that specifically the rest of this year.
Well, I have to take you back to that again. In August, 1 out of every 8 jobs created in the country was here in DFW.
We added nationally around 235,000 jobs. Almost 28,000 of those were in DFW.
Wow, that is nuts. And then to hit on the other point that you just made there, do you get the sense as you travel around the country or even just around the state here in Texas that employers are starting to clue in that, okay, we're going to have to step up our game. We're going to maybe have to sweeten the benefits. We're maybe going to have to sweeten the pay, but we've got to do something to hang on to these workers and attract new ones.
Yeah, we're seeing that. I would even say when you look at housing and rental prices and the way that they've been increasing here, it's putting more pressure on employees to be able to keep up with paying rent or paying their mortgages. And so, yes, between the competition for talent, but then what cost of living is starting to do, there is going to start to be more pressure on employers when it comes to wages.
I don't know if you get this granular with it, but I saw some recent reporting. SHRM was one of those talking about this, that right now is a good time if you are, trying to negotiate your salary or change your salary a little bit, that a lot of employers, a surprising percentage of them, were open to negotiation right now. I don't know if you get into that as much with employers, but have you sort of gotten that even anecdotally?
Well, I think it's a very good time for employers to be more strategic in those conversations. And I have spoken with people that proactively have moved, whether they're hourly manufacturing employees or a group of accountants, and trying to get them up to market average. They're using tools like LaborIQ to figure out how do we actually measure the market, because things are changing so quickly. Again, I'd be more strategic in this place rather than wait for an employee to give notice because their pay has been off.
So they're using tools like what you're putting out there to figure out if they should, be upping the ante there a little bit, and judging by the tools that you're seeing that you're putting out, that's sort of the trend that we're seeing.
That's it. And then business are also looking strategically of, if we can't find people here, can we find them somewhere else, either remotely or attract them to Dallas through relocation? But I would say that remote work from here, where the employer is in Dallas and they're now looking somewhere else, because of the work from home dynamic that we've seen play out over the last year and a half, more businesses are open to that. And because there are some, lower cost of living locations, say in the Southeast or the Midwest, Dallas can now open up and have a wider pipeline of talent to fulfill the business needs.
Are we likely to see some of that, though, too, where we will have people who are moving here to Texas because, relatively speaking, to some other parts of the country, the cost of living, even though it has gone up a lot, is still cheaper compared to, let's say, what it is on the coasts? Are we likely to see people moving here to Texas to live, but not necessarily to work, where they will actually do remote work for someone in another state?
That's going to be the really interesting thing to watch. Yes, we are going to see a lot of that. Now, businesses are figuring out, do we pay them what cost of living is, a cost of living adjustment for salary in Dallas, or do we continue to pay them what they were making on the coast? And so that's something, when we think about market disruptors, and we have a lot of them to work through over the next at least 12 months, that would certainly be one.
So we may see a lot more residents here in Texas who put down roots, but don't necessarily work here.
Yeah, and we already see some of that with people where, we have such a strong tech sector here, a financial sector, you can do those jobs from anywhere. And so whether it's someone relocating an office or just an employee relocating down from, say, the Northeast, there can be a cost savings for the business to do that if the salary is adjusted appropriately.
Last thing, Jay, we keep on seeing that there are millions of jobs available. In fact, record numbers of positions that are open right now. And then we hear about so many people who are not in jobs right now. And I keep hearing folks, especially on social media, who say, they're just lazy. They don't want to work. I was digging down into your report here. It looks like the explanation is not quite as simple as that. I mean, there's probably some of that happens all the time, but it doesn't look like it's as simple as that to explain the phenomenon we're in now.
Yeah, I would say it's really simple to say that it's only the extra unemployment benefits that have been given out for an extended period of time. There's so much more happening. People's fear of COVID, whether they now prefer an in-office job or a remote job, and employees have a little bit more leverage than before, whether vaccines are required or not. A lot of different things that are playing a role of where talent is deciding to work for or relocate to at this point.
And we see a lot of parents who started staying home to take care of the kids, perhaps, and maybe stayed with that model too, and maybe found some way to make that work.
Well, if you look, we're 540 plus days, heading towards 600 days since the pandemic began. And when you think about that, our habits have changed. A lot of people figured out work less or not at all. And so people have figured out how to live in this new dynamic. And it's hard to imagine that just within a few months from now, we'll be 2 years since the pandemic began. And because of that, we've changed habits. It'll be interesting to see as we move forward, how many start to revert back or not.
Fascinating report. Jay Denton, thanks for being with us and taking the time to walk through it with us.
Of course. Thank you.